Today, I will tell you the secret in achieving a perfect jollof. Say it's not just by roasting your tomatoes and your bell peppers and all of that. You have a lot of tricks to, you know, take into consideration while making your jollof. The first thing is this: you do not have any business with a non-stick pot when you're making your party jollof. I don't care what anybody wants to tell you, but if you'd want to get a perfect jollof rice, please do not use a non-stick pot. Okay? Second thing is ensure that you build up flavor with your oil before you add your onions. Okay, so that's why I initially added bay leaf. I allowed it to release a little bit of its flavor to the oil before I added my curry powder. I also allowed that for a few minutes before I added my onions. Okay, so you notice that I didn't add tin tomatoes or packed tomatoes, tomato paste basically, to my jollof. I do not like to add it simply because they add so many chemicals and sugar to it, and I just want tomato paste. So because it's so difficult to get tomato paste that doesn't have sugar and all those ingredients other than just tomatoes, I entirely skip it in my jollof procedure or my jollof preparation. Okay, so what I do is to add enough tatashe and Shombo, more of Tatashe, okay, to give it that popping red color that we really want to get from tin tomatoes. That way, I skip it entirely. Okay, notice that the bottom of my pot is already burnt. It's not intentional, it's not part of it. Okay, I actually left this for a while, and then when I got back, it had already gotten burnt. Okay, I didn't really mind so much because I know that at the end of the day, it's still going to get burnt. But trust me, that's not part of the process. I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so when you notice that your tomatoes is properly dried, now you have to be patient to allow your tomatoes to fry up very well. Okay, just try and be patient, because once it doesn't fry up properly, it becomes very slappy, and you don't want a slappy jollof. So just give it time to fry up very well and get dried. You know it's dry when the oil is showing up on the top, and you don't see water when you turn it. Okay, now when you do that, just ensure that you add enough seasoning powder. If you notice, I added seasoning powder or seasoning cubes, as the case may be. I added curry powder to it. I also added thyme, because remember, we're trying to build flavors, and I'm not a big fan of using different seasoning powders to cook. I'd rather prefer to use more of those natural seasonings, and maybe like few, or just a few cubes of seasoning, right? And not mix it up or add so many. I don't know how to explain this better, but you get what I mean. I just prefer to use the natural ones like curry powder and the likes. Okay, now when I realized that my tomato is properly dried, or my pepper mix is properly dried, I added my chicken. I didn't want to fry it, so I just added it. I just pretty much allowed it to soak up some of the sauce before I introduced my rice. Now notice that I stirred my rice properly, ensured it mixed up properly before I added my water. The reason is because you don't want some part of your rice or your jollof tasting nice and the other part bland. So you want to really turn and ensure that it's properly mixed. Okay, so when I realized that it's properly mixed, I added water. I didn't add so much water. Remember, jollof doesn't need a lot of water. Or if you don't know that, just hear that from me today, that your jollof do not need a lot of water to cook. It just needs steam. So be gentle with your water. So after adding the water, I covered it up and allowed it to cook. Now if you notice in the previous slide, you would see that when the rice was partly cooked, like almost cooked, I just still stirred it up together and covered it and allowed it to cook more and get burnt before we get our perfect smoky jollof rice. See, you would want to try this. I promise you, you will never get it wrong, and you won't regret having this. Thank you so much for watching. You're welcome. I know, right?